So why don't we begin again? Okay, so anyway, so we were talking about tessellations and how everything fits together. So Mrs. Contreras, please. Okay, and so we asked that question, what is a tessellation? And I'll tell you, you know the hardest part for me? 2 S's and 2 L's. I'm always leaving an S or an L out when I write this, but that's how it's spelled. Okay, next please. So it's a series of shapes, and it could be geometric shapes, any kind of shapes, that cover a surface with no gaps and no overlaps. And they repeat over and over again too, of course, that's part of it. Next please. So look, simplest of all tessellations, checkerboard, chessboard. And you can see that that fulfills the requirements of no gaps and no overlaps. It fits, and that could go all the way around the Earth. You could have it expand in that direction, this direction, and whatnot. And it's fun to design tessellations also in a 3-dimensional object like a ball, a sphere. Okay, next please. And so that was a simple tessellation. Take a look at this. This is actually a blanket made by a Navajo woman weaver from Arizona. And the Navajo live in Arizona and they live in New Mexico. And you can see that even though this is art, you'll see how everything fits together. Those rhombuses have rhombuses inside of them often. There's also triangles in there, different colors. You'll never see Navajo blankets with bright colors because they use natural dyes, which are not going to be purples and colors like that. Next, please. And so you see it in architecture. And it was at the museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, because I visit there often. I used to live there. And I saw these windows with bamboo behind them. And you can see, and what are those 2 shapes that we have up there? Yes?
Oh, it's a hexagon and a diamond.
A hexagon and a
rhombus.
A rhombus, yeah, definitely. And so you don't have to have the same shape repeating. You can, that's called a semi-regular tessellation. You can do that too. Next, please. And I think the next one is the one I like the most. Yeah, nature is where you see tessellations. And nobody told the bees to do it that way. It probably took them millions of years to figure it out, but they figured it out. And so there's honey inside there. And that's made from wax. The bees make the wax, they make the honey, and they make the honeycomb. Yeah. Next, please. And so in art, we finally see it in the work of M.C. Escher. And can you see 3 different colored lizards? And see how perfectly they fit together? Yeah. So, and 3 different colors. Next, please. Because let me show you M.C. Escher's original sketchbook page, where he just used pen and ink and he used watercolors. Same design. But do you notice something is happening? Can you see where, for instance, look for the faces of the lizards. Do you see how they interlock, the faces do? Yeah. This happens to be what's called a rotational tessellation. We're going to do a translational one in a little while. But anyway, yeah. And so they all rotate around the same point, and I think you could, look up a little higher and you can see the feet. Same difference. Yeah, rotates around the feet. And you know what? When Escher was doing this as his basis, he used a hexagon. Next, please. Because I laid in some hexagons right there. But if you also look closely, go back one more. Go back and see if you can find his original pencil lines in there. Because he actually drew a grid with hexagons in pencils, and then he did his design on top of it. So he forgot to erase, what he started with. Okay, and so continue again. Yeah, so you can see the hexagons. I sort of outlined them a little bit right there just so you could see them. Okay, next please. And so this is the kind of tessellation we're going to do today. And you're going to know the word translational, because that's exactly this kind. Translation is just a fancy word for sliding or gliding. Those are 2 other words that people use. And so we're going to start with a square, and then we're going to outline it, and then we're going to cut it out and translate it in two different ways. We're going to translate it up and down, which you can see on the top row, and then right to left on the bottom row, and then we can decorate it. And let's see, Mrs. Contreras, if you do the next one, what happens when we tessellate them all together? Isn't that cool? That's what you get. You know, and we're going to work in color too. You're going to have a bigger choice than just black and white. Well, let's quickly look at a few other tessellations, and then let's get going for this, because, yeah, go back one. Yeah, so this is the rotational kind. This is going to rotate. And you can see that it was just took 2 cuts and taping and whatnot. And then, Mrs. Contreras, the next picture, please. And so you can see those horses' heads rotating, just like that. You know, and that's actually like the lizards that we saw MC Escher do. So let's continue. I just played with a few of these. I think I used PowerPoint. Okay. And you can see that something simple, just like that, with just one translation, instead of 2 like we're going to do. So just up and down. We get a whole bunch of pumpkins. Next, please. Yeah, I just played with these. Okay, and what happens if we do the cats? This is what happens when you tessellate the cats. Next, please. Okay, yeah, ducks. Ducks would work. And then finally, let's look at that. And that, I think, is only one translation also, where we just slid it up. And matter of fact, let's look at the next picture for a second. And this is how it was done. You can see the translation happens from bottom to top in this case. And so what we want to do, and then finally, one more, because I think we have one more picture here. This is Contreras. Exactly. Let's get back to that. And so we're going to start with squares. And these squares, since we have a limited amount of time today, I just did the outline initially. And so let me ask this young lady if she will, this young student, this 8th grade, if she will pass these out, one to everybody. And here's what we want to do, is we want to create this. And you can do it. Oh, and then we have scissors. Let me ask this young man to give a pair of scissors to each student. Yeah, so we want to get to this point right here. And so cut on the lines, and then start, and I'll give everybody some tape in 1 second. You'll start by translating this up from up here to down there. So that first picture that we see right here, after you cut out the shapes, you'll slide it down, and then if you see the back of this, you'll see the tape on the back. So slide this part down to here, and then in a minute we'll slide this part to there to make the tail of the bird. Yeah, so just cut on those lines.
This one too?
Yep.
Is it all connected?
Both sets of lines.
If you're unsure, call me.
Both sets of lines. Good, you got both sets, great. And let's get the tape out. And after you've translated, after you've slid it, then tape it on the back. Okay? And take your time cutting, because I think that little details like that are more important than so many other things. Thank you. Yeah, so take your time cutting this. This is not a race. It's a race for quality, not for seeing who can do it the fastest, but who can cut the best. And after you cut that first section out, then you're going to slide the foot from the top down to the bottom, and you'll tape it in place on the back.
You're doing a really great job.
Well, I would expect it. Okay.
Cutting this and then going back and doing that.
Yeah, so cut this one just first. Don't cut the other one yet. And then you're going to translate this like this, slide it down to here, and then tape it.
Okay.
Okay? Have you taped it yet?
Well, if you look, I think you're going to cut it and it's going to become like that tail.
And you're going to, after you tape the first translation, I got to get these words right in my own mind, then you'll cut that other section, that triangular shape section, and you'll translate that side to side. Okay.
he's cutting it.
Yeah, you want it just to match right like that. Just like you slid it down. Good.
How you
Yeah,
doing,
so
Lorain?
slide it down like that. Tape it there. Excellent. So after you've done the first one, then you can cut the second section, which is the lower row here, and translate that from side to side.
So what is translate?
Yeah, and then you'll cut that, and then you'll translate it this way. And line it up. Yes, and so you really want to think of it as one piece then. Yep.
Think about it. What are we doing right now? You're cutting, and you can see some of the arrows on the board. What does translate? Slide. I heard someone say slide.
And sometimes it's
Yes.
glide.
You can ask your partner to hold it so you can line it up, because I know some of you are
You
very
don't even look so
particular.
birdie, I can't cut.
Just sliding in that horizontal.
I'm good at holding pieces of paper together.
And you see what, yeah, try to line it up so you. Yeah, right here, look at
Does it go out here or does it? That's fine.
And then we're going to give you a challenge next. A challenge that is going to make your mind, it's not going to fry your mind, but it's going to make it heat up to a very warm temperature. Okay, would you give everybody a pencil, please? Oh, and we also have these white, if we're working with dark colors, we have white and gold pencils too. Okay, so, and if you're done with this next step, come on up and get a sheet of the colored paper here. Any color you want.
How about we do table by table? So Isaiah's table, come on up, pick a color, pick a color of the paper you want.
Yep, pick a color of this.
And write the darker the paper, Mr. George, a
Any
different pencil.
Okay, yeah. And kids, if you're using a dark color, you're going to want either a white pencil or a gold pencil because black will not show up on a dark color.
So like gentlemen, you just grabbed red. You might want to come up and get a white pencil.
Yeah, we have white pencils and gold pencils. So, the young folks here, come on up and get a color. Any color is fine. It won't make any difference. Okay. And if you're working with the dark color, get a gold or a white pencil.
Yes.
Okay, that looks good. Now, don't do any adjustments.
I like the handy.
Okay, and I'll show you what's next. And matter of fact, Mr. Bach, maybe I'll do my demonstration right here in a second.
You guys needed any.
So here we have, and let's call that our element. Just like in science, you take a bunch of elements, you make a molecule, you take a bunch of molecules and you make us. You know, that's the way it works. So let's call this our element, because this is the simplest part of what we're doing. And the thing to remember is we have a cut line that goes here and a cut line that goes there, and that's very important for what we're going to do next. So folks, remember the sight lines here. We have a camera behind us, but I'm going to sit down right here. And, oh, let me give this back. Okay. I'm going to sit down right here, so if you'll hop up. And then everybody else come around here, because the only way to show you how to do this is a hands-on
Stand right behind
demonstration.
you. Guys, come up here. I moved all my stuff so you guys can kind of lean if you needed to. Lean in. Come
Okay.
around. Keep moving. You guys move over.
Okay. So we've got this, and this is 9 by 12, and this happens to be 3. So we're going to have 3 across the top and 4 down when we line it all up. But we're going to start just by lining up that cut line right there. Okay? And you notice that this is off the paper. Fine. Don't worry about it. And I think we can just use this here. So I'm going to line it up really well and draw just what ended up by being the leg. I slid this a little bit. Yeah, take your time on this part. And what we need you to do is 2 rows. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to do a 3rd row. So we got that. But look what happens when we slide this up just like that. It fits perfectly. And so let's get it back up here so we get right to the points right there. And this, and if you're having an issue with this, let us know, because this I think is the hardest part actually. Okay, and so we're going to outline like this. Okay, and then keep going. Okay, and then we'll do it again. So just line it up really nicely, make sure it all fits. And then I won't finish this first row or column, whoops. And because let's go to the next part right here, which is to fit it like this. Okay, and you see what we're creating. This is the beak, there's the beak, this is going to become the beak, this is part of the tail. Here's our tail here. So let's just line this up carefully so you can see what we're doing as we're working. So just like you did before, take your time doing this. And remember, you're going to line the cut line up right there to start with. And when you get over here, by the way, do you notice we have that part of the tail is missing right here? Here it is right over here. And so we'll be able to cut that and go, and move it over there. Okay? So anyway, but just a couple rows like this coming down, I think, is all you need. And so take your time, and then you'll cut them out and save the little pieces too. Okay? Like we have that little leg right there, because guess what? It's going to be attached down here. Okay? Okay. So begin to outline, and Mrs. Contreras and I and Mr.
Pastor.
Yes, that's right. I only know you by your first name. So anyway, so come on, have a seat and begin your outlining. And if you have a dark color, and you may want to use the sharpener on this.
That was my hardest part, because I like to make my lines straight. So if you're that type of person, I would just, if you make a mistake, you have an eraser, so you'll be fine, okay?
Okay, you have yours perfectly lined up. Although slide it a little to the left, and then trace it. And then you'll translate downward once you're done. Exactly. And then you'll translate down farther. It goes over, and then do it again. Excellent.
Now,
I love the black. Yeah, slide this over a little bit so your cut line is off the paper. It's all right to make little adjustments like that. Okay? And hold it down, yeah. And then trace again.
Mr. George, did
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want them to go straight down, or did you want them, is it okay for them to go across?
Well, they could start by going straight down.
Okay.
And you see what you're getting here. You're getting part,
But don't
this
worry about
part
it.
then would
If you
fit
wanted to
up here.
fix your mistake,
Okay, and then you translate down to here. And so leave this part off the paper again, and then just hold it, don't let it move, and then trace the whole thing this time. But remember, you don't have to trace this part, it's already done. Okay? Yeah.
Puzzle, it's not even a big deal, you'll see, it'll all come together.
Yep.
While I'm tracing.
Frankly, and you'll create that thing right there. Anyway, let's see, you got
That's
the
what
tail
you
of
just said.
the next bird here. And you'll see it down, and then. And make sure that your cut line is off, so that little part of the tail will be off the paper.
All right.
So hold it, and then trace.
Well, that, we're not a
Columns go up and down.
Yeah, only
Hold
two
that so it doesn't
columns.
slide.
So once we have to do one more at the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's go down.
and make your column so
Columns
you
go
complete
side to
this
side.
column here, down here. And then you'll complete that down there.
Yes, they do, because they have two column proofs and they're side to side. Hold up, Mr. Bassler.
Think of Greek architecture, columns.
Columns.
So it's like, so it's like
Up and
this.
down.
We're in a
Told you.
restaurant, column A and column B. Okay, and then let's do this here. Okay. All right. Excellent. Yeah, do that because you're going to create this here anyway. So just slide it up a little bit so it's a little closer to the top. Okay? All right, ladies, gentlemen, take a look over here. Ta-ta. I need everybody's eyes.
Hey guys,
Everybody?
George,
Okay?
I know you guys want to keep going.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is complete, and you know what's next? She's going to cut them out. That's what she's going to do. And then I'll show you how we'll get a second color involved. So take your scissors, and I would actually, when she cuts it out, I would just cut on this long line here like that, and I would cut on this long line here, and then cut out the other sections.
You have to cut out each image.
So that's supposed to come out that far.
Okay, so that looks good there. So you're going to move this over here and do it again. And do another column right there. You've got your 2 columns, good. And then cut them out. Yeah, but if you cut on the long lines first, it goes much faster. The edge of, yeah, so just cut going like that. Okay. We learned, and then I'll make sure it shows the same thing.
Yeah, I can find it.
Yeah, draw those lines there. Draw that line and this line here. Okay? Good. Oh, I like the scallops here. Okay. And then cut out that next long line. And then you can just cut the horizontal lines. Okay, then keep going. Just finish this up here.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, so cut on that long curvy line this way, and then you only have to cut the horizontal parts. And Mr. Bach, we're going to continue a little bit after class.
Oh, that's fine. Yep.
Let's do one more different thing. Sticking a little bit. Yeah, because we need this extra the tail. Okay, good. So then cut that line there. When you've cut all of your bird shapes out, would everybody look here? We have some paper with a grid on it. Pick the color you would like to have go with the color you're working with now. Okay? And these are more closer to earth tones. Tans, browns, greens, oranges, yellows. So when you've cut them all out, pick one that you think will go well with your individual birds with the color that first color that you used.
So we cut out each individual bird.
Yeah, and then you'll just cut that line, and that line. Okay, and the same thing there. And you can cut out this extra one if you want. Okay, looks good. Okay, so then cut this long wiggly line, and then go back and cut.
Because that doesn't line up.
Well, you know what? We're just going to do that. Okay, then cut this around like this, up like that, and then you can cut the horizontal sections. Okay? Okay, and as soon as you're done, I'm going to use you as a demonstration, so, or your piece rather. And so pick out the color that you would like to use with the black. Okay, and then keep going. Those horizontals there. All right, and I'm going to use this young woman here for our demonstration here. And so would you pick out a grid? And then I'd like people to see what's next, because everybody is works at a different pace. And so stand up and come on over here for 1 second. Stop cutting.
Sure, you put your scissors down, Jeffrey.
This goes down here. Can you see what we're doing?
What do you guys notice?
The gap.
And guess what? This is going to go over here because that goes off the edge there. And then we have this one going right there. Can you see the yellow bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want. Oh, and then 1 foot over here. Ta-ta! So we get that complete bird. Okay? And then we have another one going here.
She's got it.
Okay, and we might have to, hold on 1 second here. What are we missing? Oh, we're going to need to cut, I think, a little extra piece to make this part here. And so out of here, she can just actually draw a straight line and then just cut that, because we're going to need, here, I'll just draw it. We're going to need a small piece that goes right here. to finish that off, and a small piece that goes right there to finish that off. Otherwise, we've got what we want. Yeah, and then once you're done, oh, and guess what? Glue sticks, okay? Once you're done gluing them down, and we have this, then you can add, okay? Add an eye, add a mouth, add some feathers back there, whatever you want.
Kind of like how you shape it.
Exactly, but you can play with it any way you want, okay? So, so lay it out first. Once you're all done cutting, lay it out first, check with us, and then start to glue, okay? Be sure you check with us. All right, and remember, after you're done cutting, pick up a contrasting color with the gridded paper. So that looks good. Yeah.
How many? All you gotta do is cut a straight line like that
Not that one, that's gonna, actually, you know where that's going?
for the other side of that one. They don't believe it. Make it easy.
Because you can see part of the bird right there.
So real quick, I wanted to show you guys something. You know how he was like hand drawing in that tail that was coming in on the paper? So, okay, so everyone sees that. You're gonna cut off this piece to continue that piece that he was hand drawing, okay? So if you wanted, you could draw a straight line, or you could just cut to get your piece, okay? Not your colored pencils or anything. I'm gonna collect your tape. As I'm collecting your tape, you can grab a glue stick from the bag. So, can I collect your guys' tape and grab a glue stick?
Okay, you have the idea. Let's see, this has the tail, so this would go here. And so now you can see a complete bird right here, except for part of the tail that goes off the edge. And this goes right there, because it's just the reverse of what you see right there. And then do we have one with the stomach cut off? Yeah, right here, I think that goes right there.
And then there's no more? Well, look,
All right, starting to look good.
it's looking really nice. No, we would have had.
Right there. And then one more would go in the same spot there. Excellent. Well, I'm waiting for the first person to be done gluing.
You put a full bird in the middle.
Okay.
Like right.
The full bird does go right in the very center square. That's right. Oh, I like the tan and the light blue there, the brown and the light blue. Those are nice colors together.
It does make this.
Okay. Ta-ta. Can you find yellow birds? Can you find blackbirds? Okay. Well, and you find them both in nature, actually, blackbirds and yellow birds. And so, you know what's next for her is to take and start putting some details in, an eye, part of the mouth, etc.
If you get done early, I have these clips. It would be nice to hold up an example for everyone else. So, if you want to share yours, I would recommend it because you might do it a different way and then give someone an idea. So, I'm going to grab my clips. Feel free to share. What transition? So, there's something called transformation, and there's 3 types. There's translation, rotation, and reflection.
So, with your white pencil?
So with this, you guys are translating. Are we rotating?
Need water.
No. Are we reflecting? So we're mostly just focusing on, so if you look at the word, translation, tessellation, so there's that connection. Okay? So how do you feel now, Jose?
I get it. I forgot all about that kind of transformation and translation.
Yeah.
Rotation.
Well, and funny, but when you learn symmetry, they use similar words, but they don't mean the same thing. So.
Exactly. So it's kind of like just going a little bit more in depth, and then doing this activity, we could have done a house, like you said. We can do different shapes.
So good. So glue that down, and then I'd like to show people. Oh, fabulous.
These all don't look like a bird.
And here's another one here. You know, I did bring some erasers, and you can erase the grid lines if you'd like. I think I brought them. Let's see. They were in a bag. And it looks like there's only one. But if you want to erase your grid lines, once you have everything glued down, okay, so you can see the green bird forms. And then you use some whole, couple more whole ones over. We have things going in the right direction. Yeah, over here, a whole one here, and a whole one here. So here's the bird's leg. Let's just slide that over. Get it to me. There's the tail, there's the leg, and there's the beak right there. So just adjust it so it looks good, and then you can start to glue down. Okay? And then add detail.
So like the white would look good on the red, but I would say use this color for the blue. Because you have to think there's an eye going to be there, and then there's going to be an eye there.
That blue and red together. Great combination. Putting one, oh!
So let's get 3. So
Ta-ta!
you know how you said last year, Mr. George, let's look at it far away, and it looks amazing when you look at it far away.
All right, here's another one.
So let's try to get one more. I'd like to have at least 3 up there. It'd be nice so you guys can really take a look at it. And then he can, you know, like, we can go over the dominant and the, I like how you mentioned that. That looks good. Love that.
Okay.
All you see is brown?
Yes.
You see, you want?
So,
Yeah, but the brown is a darker value, so it is going should be going back visually.
brown bird.
But I see the brown, it's almost equal. They may be very close in value. The way to find out what the value is to set your camera for just black and white and grayscale, because then when you see a red in gray scale, it turns black. That's what happens to the color red. And then colors like blue actually turn almost white.
So right here is where to go.
Want me to hang yours up?
Usually you wonder why.
With
So you do read it just
Look at that.
He's right.
Who said yes for optical?
Okay, guys, take a moment. Look at it real quick.
There's some great ones out there.
Guys, OH. OH. Take a look at that. You guys, and I know that's not everybody's work up there, but look how cool as you stare at it. Look how you see the green and the orange bird.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.